I am Marcus James Dixon with Gold Derby, and we are here with Jeremiah Brent, the newest host of Queer Eye on Netflix. So you are officially in the Fab Five now. How does that feel?
That's pretty amazing. I keep saying to people, it feels like I've come home in a lot of ways. It's the culmination of everything that I've learned. I get to do it alongside people that I love and admire, and I get to help people. So it's been a really wild journey.
And I'm curious, what was the audition process like for you? I think you had worked with the production company before. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'd actually been asked to do the show originally when they brought it back. But at the time, my husband and I had just welcomed our first child, Poppy, and she was just under a year old. And there was no world that I could imagine leaving and going off to shoot. And so, painfully said no. It was the right move, obviously, and I don't regret it. But then coincidentally, I became really close to the other Fab Four, and the timing lined up this time around, and the production company, Scott, who I've worked with for over a decade, came back to me and they're like, if you're open to it, now's the time. And it was just the synchronicity around it was just really smooth. It just worked out beautifully.
I chatted with the showrunner, Jennifer Lane, last
Yeah.
week, and she said you fit like a glove.
Well, that's
How would you?
that is that is a high praise coming from her because she's a tough cookie. I was really scared coming into the show. I think I felt a huge amount of responsibility to what the show represents and what it has represented culturally for now the second iteration. I also felt these people that are on the show, the Fab Four, have been on the front lines of some of the most intense conversations and have been really out there advocating for a marginalized queer community, for everybody, really. And so I wanted to come in and really not only provide them the safety that they needed and the relationship and the soft place to land for them, but, be a good partner. That was really my only intention.
And your first moment on the show is you're in this package and they open the box and you come out and hug them. Were there air holes in there? How long were you in there? Were you in danger?
There were no air holes, but it was strategically timed. Just so you know, that was my worst nightmare. Contrary to what my profession I've did for whatever reason chosen, that was the last thing I wanted to do. I was like, can we just I just suddenly just appear and we're good. So popping out of a box, albeit gratifying for my husband, was my worst nightmare. But it was fun. It was, the thing about it is Vegas, it was such an interesting character in and of itself. So you got to kind of have fun, and there was like this glitzy, glammy component mixed with everything else we're doing. So it just worked.
And your role on the show is design. And I'm curious, how long have you worked in this specific space?
I started my design firm about 13 years ago. And I've been working in design television for 10 years. So for a while, which is kind of weird to say out loud because I still feel like I'm 27. But I've been doing it for a bit.
And so are you the friend who fixes things around the house for your other friends? Like if my sliding glass door breaks, you're coming over to help me, right?
100%. I am always in. I'm, I love what I do. It's such a treat and a reward. I mean, to be able to do and live and work through your passion, it's something that I don't ever take for granted. But yes, if you need something, you need a towel, you need a hook, you need a candle, you need something fixed, I'm your gal for sure.
At the end of the first episode, you're crying, everybody's crying, and you ask something like, is it like this every time? And they're all like, yes, this happens every episode.
Yeah.
Do you guys all keep tissues in your pockets in case you have an outburst like that?
No, but it's a good lesson for me going into the next season. I didn't expect to feel or to be as emotional as I was. I think it's such a testament to the process and the honesty around it. The people that we meet are so vulnerable and expose so many parts of themselves, and they open their entire life up, the good and the bad. And I think there was just a lot of power to that. And I love people. Like I really love meeting people, and I'm naturally curious, and the show is so unique in the sense that it's real. It's not produced stakes. It's just real. And you get to watch these people see themselves the way you see them. And it's really powerful. I think it's a real expression of, the best sides of humanity, like when we use our powers for good.
and season 9 filmed in Las Vegas, as you mentioned. Do you have maybe a dream city that you would love Queer Eye to visit in the future?
Well, I'm very excited about next season. We're shooting in DC. And little known fact, if I wasn't in design, I would have loved to have gone into politics, which most people would say right now, what is wrong with you? But I think it's actually like my favorite. I'm really excited about this next season. I'm excited to dig in and meet interesting people, have interesting conversations. The backdrop of the Capitol and what DC has represented and still represents. It's going to be, I think, an important moment at the right time.
And you revealed on the show that you're a big fan of crystals. And I'm curious, where did this appreciation come from? Like, as I'm a
I'm like
non-crystal
looking
fan,
around to show you one, but I don't have one here.
what am I missing as a non-crystal fan?
Well, listen, listen, it's not for everybody, all right? But I am a little witchy and that I believe that, crystals can hold energy and harness energy. For our wedding, when my husband and I got married, instead of flowers, we bought all these beautiful, like, selenite crystal logs that are supposed to kind of hold all the beauty and magic. And they're supposed to be a really positive conduit to have around your house. They're beautiful. I love the natural component of them. You can charge them in the moon if you want to get really witchy. But there's a lot of interesting theories around them. So it's actually one of the first things I got the rest of the Fab Five when we first started. So, but I love it.
Witches are very in right now, like Agatha All Along, Wicked.
Which I loved. Did you watch that show?
Yes. Patty,
Oh,
Patty LuPone was absolutely amazing.
can you believe? I made my husband watch that show. I was like, I mean, I also have like the movie taste of like a 14-year-old child. So it's like anything post-apocalyptic or sci-fi or witchy or vampire, I automatically love it. The bar is so low.
So I'm curious, are there any heroes that you met on the show? And for anyone that doesn't know, the hero is the term that you give the kind of the person you're documenting for that week.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that really affected you and stayed with you long after filming ended?
Well, to be honest with you, they all did. They're all kind of a little bit of a piece of me at this point. I learned so much from all of them. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this show is we're not there to teach, we're there to experience, right? And then there's so many people that we met that I learned and took so much from, Nicole and her strength as a mother and as a provider and showing up for her children when her husband left. Paula, this idea of never letting go of a dream, reinventing yourself constantly and connecting to this next chapter of your life. Jenye for me was particularly poignant just on a personal level because in the first half of my life, I was raised by a single mother. And it was a really humbling experience to be able to give somebody everything you wish you could have given your mother in that moment. And Jinye was also unique because she is so rooted in her religion and her spirituality. And, as a member of the queer community, spirituality and religion freaks the hell out of me. It's not always been the most historically warm place for us. And that was the opposite with her. We got to watch her receive all of this joy and opportunity, and she equated it to God and to Jesus, and we were part of that. Like the spirituality funneled through us. So I think it was a really unique moment for me, and it kind of gave me pause and thought, okay, I need to be less cynical around this and really look into it. And that's the beauty of the show, right?
Mhm.
It's like how can we look at something from a different perspective, a safe place, non-judgmental. But yeah, every one of them, every single person that we worked with had a huge impact on me.
Every person and every dog. You designed Mr. Piffles dog park for
Yes,
Prince
as
Magic
well.
Dragon.
First time I've designed something for someone to pee and poop on, I got to tell you, it's the first time for everything.
Sadly, the dog, Mr. Piffles, has actually passed away since then. What was your reaction when that happened? I was devastated.
I was heartbroken. I mean, he lived a long, beautiful life. He was a sweetheart. I think, what a legacy, to be honest with you. But it was really heartbreaking,
Mhm.
but I'm glad we got to meet him. I'm glad we got to be a part of that. I'm glad I got to create something that is in his honor, which is what we wanted.
So I'm curious, besides the dog park, which was obviously a unique challenge, what was another challenging room, home that you designed this year that you can share with us?
Well, I mean, the entire season was a challenge because you've got essentially 3 days to do an entire renovation. So it is, it is no small feat. I think I pushed myself and I pushed the show really hard to kind of bring in materials that they hadn't used before. Nobody had got renovated kitchens and used marble countertops and marble backsplash. We did that this season. I think I challenged myself, and I hope that people felt this way, that every episode was a completely different design style and completely different design aesthetic that you may like or may not like, but it was a pure reflection of the person living there. And I think for me, design television has largely felt very prescriptive for a long time. This is a beautiful cream room with gray and black, which is gorgeous. But I'm trying to shift the way we look at design and make it more personal. Paula liked butterflies and flowers and bunnies and birds. And I gave that to her. I tried to make it feel elevated and elegant and have a clear perspective. But my job is to really be a conduit for people's experiences, their story, and to just create a space that reflects that. So that was the biggest challenge for me, aside from budget and time, making spaces that felt really personal.
How much can you talk about the budget? Are you given a certain amount each episode to spend, or does it depend on?
It's very minimal, Marcus, a very minimal amount of money. And I think more to the point, it's the time. But what I think is really interesting, and I think worth noting, is design is at a really interesting moment right now where you can live really beautifully and not spend a ton of money. There's a lot of really amazing resources out there. You know, with this show in particular, there was quite a few people who, were renting their apartments. They couldn't do any construction. So we found really unique, adhesive wallpaper, different ways that we could add a lot of personality that didn't really break the bank. And I think, that's in large part to the democratization of design and how much it's changed in the last decade.
Vegas as the city this year, one of the sort of major locations you all visited was the High Roller, the Ferris wheel that goes really, really high up into the sky. And you didn't like that, did you?
Oh my God, it's my worst nightmare. I am not a fan of heights at all. Like I can handle anything, but heights are just not for me. And I should never have said anything because the second I did, all of a sudden we had a scene, at the top of this thing. And we had, we shoot a scene and it's like, 2 hours and you go round and round. And I was so nervous and so stressed out about it. Karama was like jumping around, like no care in the world. That at one point I remember looking over and Sean, who works on the show, had a little sign that he was showing Jen, and it said, "He's not speaking." And it was for me because I was being so quiet. But I was terrified. It was not, I was, it was so bad. But I did it. It was a beautiful sunset, but
Mhm.
I'd never need to do it again.
I've actually been there a couple times. The last time I was there on the High Roller, I was with the top six queens from RuPaul's Drag Race, so it was very, very fun moment. They also have a like an all you can drink ride around, which is
So that I could get on board with.
yeah,
Yeah,
it makes it easier.
that would have made my experience a lot easier, but nobody was allowing me all you can drink. I had to just be there and I
Mhm.
was stressed.
If you could change one thing about yourself, Jeremiah, what would it be?
What would I change about myself? I mean, I wouldn't mind being 6 inches taller, to be honest with you. Very superficial. Uh, But no, I mean, I'm really happy with who I am. I feel like like a real immense sense of gratitude that I get to, live and work through my passion, and because of this passion for design and my belief in what it is, I've been able to kind of bounce between all these different facets of my career, whether it's television or my design side, and I don't know, I'm really just kind of grateful. But yeah, if I was like 6'2", I'd be thrilled.
That's a little tall. That's too tall.
Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's by my wish being granted. So if you could please make that happen, I'd
Yes.
appreciate it.
The Emmy nominations are coming up. Queer Eye has been represented in the past at the Emmy Awards, a lot of wins, a lot of nominations. What would it mean now that you're the newbie to get some Emmy love from the voters?
Listen, here's what I want. I want the hard work of the people that work on this show and have been working on it for almost for 10 seasons now. I want them to have a moment of that success. And if I'm a part of that and getting, that moment for everybody, then that would be really amazing. But I think, the part that people will never understand about the show is the tremendous amount of work that goes in behind the scenes, the people who are advocating for the heroes, who are advocating for the work, who are advocating for the time, who are keeping things moving, who have the perspective and the insight and the intuition to make a show that is rooted in what really matters. And so the show's success is really what I'm invested in and what I care about. And if I could be a small part of that, that would be fantastic.